Put your hands where I can see them, now." The man in the charcoal suit doesn't flinch. He turns slowly, deliberately, the way someone turns when they have done absolutely nothing wrong and they know it. "I'm going to need you to tell me why you're stopping me, officer." "I said hands, don't make me repeat myself." "My hands are visible, I haven't moved. I'm asking you a legal question." The officer, wide-shouldered, jaw tight, hand already drifting toward his belt, takes one step forward, then another. The glass wall of the Harrington Cole flagship store catches the afternoon light behind them, luxury watches gleaming in the window display like they're watching the whole thing unfold. A woman pushing a stroller stops on the sidewalk. A teenage boy raises his phone. Two store employees press their faces against the glass from the inside, frozen. What happened in the next 4 minutes would strip a decorated law enforcement officer of his badge, trigger a federal civil rights investigation, result in a settlement that shook an entire city's police department to its foundation, and it would all be caught on camera from 6 different angles. Before we go further, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you're new to this channel, hit subscribe right now, because this story gets more unbelievable with every single detail. You do not want to miss what's coming. Marcus Deveaux was 44 years old on the afternoon this happened, and he had spent 21 of those years building one of the most quietly distinguished careers in federal law enforcement. He grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the second of 4 children raised by a schoolteacher mother and a father who repaired appliances out of their garage. His mother read to him every night: history, biography, law. By the time Marcus was 12, he could tell you the full text of the Fourth Amendment from memory, not because anyone made him learn it, because it meant something to him, because he understood even then that the law was either a shield or a weapon, and he intended to be the person who held it right. He graduated from Southern University with a degree in criminal justice, finished in the top 3% of his class at Quantico, and spent his first 5 years in the FBI's New Orleans field office working organized crime. He was the agent who built the case that dismantled the Trevino trafficking network, a 3-year undercover operation that resulted in 47 arrests and the recovery of 19 minors. He never talked about it in public. The families of those children knew his name. That was enough for Marcus. By the time he was 36, he'd been promoted to Supervisory Special Agent. By 40, he was leading the Cyber and Financial Crimes Division out of the Washington, D.C. field office, overseeing a team of 31 agents and coordinating with Interpol on cross-border financial fraud cases. He had 3 commendations: a service medal, a letter of recognition signed by the director himself. He was also a husband of 16 years to a woman named Diane, a pediatric nurse who still packed his lunch when he worked late. He was the father of 2 daughters, Imani, 19, and Zoe, 15, both of whom he coached in youth soccer until the schedule made it impossible, and who still called him every Sunday without fail. On this particular Tuesday in October, Marcus was in downtown Chicago for a 2-day interagency briefing. The morning session had ended early. He had 90 minutes before the afternoon panel. He was thinking about Diane's birthday, 3 weeks away, and he had walked 3 blocks from the conference hotel to Harrington Cole, one of the city's oldest luxury goods stores, because Diane had mentioned a particular bracelet during a window shopping trip they'd taken 2 years ago, and Marcus had never forgotten. He was holding a small velvet display tray, examining 2 bracelets side by side, asking the sales associate a question about the clasp mechanism, when Officer Dale Pruitt walked in. Dale Pruitt had been with the Chicago Metropolitan Police Department for 9 years. He was 37. He worked the near North Side District, a beat that covered some of the city's most expensive retail corridors, a fact that seemed to shape something in the way he moved through the world. He had, in 9 years, accumulated 19 formal complaints filed against him. 19. In a department where the average officer receives fewer than 2 complaints in an entire career. Of those 19, every single one had been filed by a person of color. 14 involved stops in retail locations. 5 involved traffic stops. The pattern was not ambiguous. It was documented, dated, signed, and filed. And 9 times out of 19, the outcome was the same: dismissed following a brief review, or resolved with what the department called remedial training, which in practice meant a 4-hour online module that Pruitt's own supervisor later admitted he had no way of verifying Pruitt had completed. His colleagues called him Hawk. They said he had a gift for spotting trouble. What the complaint files showed was a gift for stopping black men in expensive places and finding reasons to justify it afterward. In March of 2021, Pruitt stopped a 41-year-old surgeon named Dr. Raymond Osai in the lobby of a Michigan Avenue hotel, demanding to see his room key and ID because, in Pruitt's words, the man didn't look like a guest. Dr. Osai was the keynote speaker at the cardiology conference being held in that hotel's ballroom. The complaint was dismissed. Pruitt received 4 hours of training. In September of 2022, Pruitt detained a 28-year-old architect named Jordan Muse for 20 minutes outside a jewelry store on Wabash, accusing him of casing the location. Jordan Muse was engaged. He had just purchased an engagement ring. He had the receipt in his hand when Pruitt stopped him. The complaint was dismissed. Pruitt received 4 hours of training. Dale Pruitt remained on patrol. Harrington Cole has occupied the same corner of Michigan Avenue and Huron Street since 1987. It is the kind of store where the carpet is thick enough to muffle footsteps, where the lighting is warm and deliberate, and where the sales staff speak in the measured tones of people trained never to seem rushed. On this Tuesday in October, the early afternoon crowd was thin. A couple near the watch display, an older woman being shown pearl earrings, Marcus at the bracelet counter near the back. The street outside was busy with lunch traffic, the lake breeze carrying the smell of autumn through every time a door opened. It was 1:17 in the afternoon. The city looked exactly like itself. Dale Pruitt enters through the main door. He doesn't walk to the counter. He doesn't ask anyone a question. He scans the room the way he always scans rooms, and his eyes stop on Marcus. He moves toward the back of the store. "Excuse me, can I see some ID?" Marcus looks up from the bracelet tray. He doesn't startle. He takes one measured breath. "I'm a customer. I haven't done anything that would give you reasonable suspicion to demand my ID. What's the basis for this stop?" The sales associate, a young woman named Priya, looks between them. She opens her mouth. Pruitt cuts her off with a look. "I'm going to ask you one more time. ID now." "Officer, I know my rights. You need articulable reasonable suspicion to detain me. I'm standing at a sales counter in a retail establishment. I'd like to know what I've done." Pruitt's jaw tightens. His hand moves to his belt, not his weapon, his handcuff case. He steps around the counter. "You match a description of a theft suspect from earlier today." Marcus's voice stays completely level. "I'd like to know the description." "Sir, I'm not going to keep going back and forth with you. And I'm not going to surrender my civil rights because you're uncomfortable. If you have a legal basis to detain me, state it." The couple near the watches has stopped pretending to look at watches. The older woman with the pearls has turned around entirely. Priya is already reaching for her phone. Outside, through the glass wall facing the street, 3 pedestrians have slowed to a stop. Quick question for everyone watching right now. Have you or someone you know ever been stopped, accused, or detained for something you absolutely did not do? Type yes in the comments. Because what happens next is something every single one of those people will recognize. Pruitt grabs Marcus by the left shoulder and shoves him sideways, hard, into the glass display wall. The sound is a dull, heavy thud, the kind that makes everyone in a room flinch. A bracelet tray clatters off the counter. The older woman gasps. Marcus's shoulder takes the impact. He does not swing. He does not shout. He turns his face toward Pruitt slowly and he says in the quietest possible voice, "You just made a significant mistake." Pruitt wrenches Marcus's arms behind his back. "You're under arrest, obstruction, failure to identify." "I am calmly invoking my constitutional rights. That is not obstruction." A man near the entrance, mid-50s, in a North Face jacket steps forward. Hey, he didn't do anything. He was just standing there." Pruitt points at him without turning around. "Back up or you're next." The man doesn't back up. He raises his phone higher. The cuffs click on, too tight. Pruitt doesn't adjust them. Marcus stands completely still, hands behind his back, shoulders straight, and he says nothing else. His dignity in that moment costs him something. Anyone watching can see that. The cost is visible in the set of his jaw, but he pays it. At the precinct, Marcus is placed in a holding area while Pruitt runs his ID through the system. A second officer, younger, clearly uncertain, lingers near the doorway. Pruitt fills out paperwork at a desk 20 feet away, the easy confidence of a man who has done this before and watched it go away quietly. The system takes 4 minutes to return results. The first flag comes back on the federal employee database, then the clearance level, then the badge number cross-referenced with the FBI's field office directory. Pruitt stares at the screen. The younger officer walks over, looks at what Pruitt is looking at, and takes a slow, visible step backward, away from Pruitt, as if proximity itself has become dangerous. The color moves out of Pruitt's face the way water drains from a tub. His hands, which have been moving confidently over the keyboard, go still. He reads the screen again, then again. Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Deveaux, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Washington, D.C. Field Office, Cyber and Financial Crimes Division, Security Clearance, Top Secret SCI, 21 years of service, 3 departmental commendations, a phone number that routes directly to the Chicago FBI Field Office liaison desk. The room is very quiet. Marcus, still cuffed, sitting in a plastic chair 12 feet away, watches Dale Pruitt's face from across the room. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. The look on Pruitt's face says everything that needs to be said. A supervisor is called. She walks in, looks at the screen, looks at Marcus, and closes her eyes for exactly 2 seconds. The kind of pause that means someone is doing rapid calculations about the rest of their career. The cuffs come off. A supervisor offers her hand. Marcus looks at it for a moment. "I need your name, your badge number, and his." He nods toward Pruitt. "And I need the body camera footage from this interaction preserved, right now, tonight. Because what I do next depends entirely on whether it still exists in the morning." His voice is calm. It has been calm this entire time. That calm in this moment is the most devastating thing in the room. Do you think Marcus should have accepted an apology and walked away? Or do you think he was right to demand full accountability? Tell me what you would have done. The Chicago PD's initial public statement, released the following morning, described the incident as a miscommunication that is currently under internal review, and confirmed that Officer Pruitt had been placed on administrative leave with pay pending investigation. It was the department's standard first move, the language of institutions that have learned to speak the language of accountability without actually practicing it. Marcus did not hold a press conference. He did not post on social media. He called the FBI's Office of General Counsel, filed an official complaint with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and contacted the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. Then he went back to the afternoon panel he'd originally planned to attend. He sat in the 3rd row. He took notes. But 6 people had recorded the encounter inside Harrington and Cole. 2 had recorded through the glass from the street. The footage reached Twitter by 6 p.m. By midnight, it had 14 million views. By the following morning, it had been covered by every major national outlet, and the name Dale Pruitt had been searched 2 million times in 24 hours. The footage was unambiguous. It showed a man standing at a sales counter, conducting a normal transaction, speaking calmly, legally invoking his rights, and being physically slammed into a glass wall, cuffed, and removed from a store without any evidence of wrongdoing. The officers' union released a statement calling the interaction a good faith response to a reported theft in the area. When reporters asked for documentation of the theft report that allegedly prompted the stop, the union declined to provide it. When the Chicago Tribune filed a FOIA request for the report, the department confirmed that no such theft report existed for that location on that date. Pruitt's attorney told reporters that his client relied on available information and acted within departmental guidelines. The attorney did not appear to be aware that the body camera footage had already been preserved, and that the surveillance footage from Harrington and Cole's internal security system had been secured by the FBI that same night. The DOJ investigation took 11 weeks. Its findings documented Pruitt's 19 prior complaints in detail, established a pattern of discriminatory enforcement, and identified 3 additional incidents that had never been formally reported. The investigation also found that 2 of Pruitt's supervisors had reviewed his complaint history and taken no substantive action, documentation that became the foundation for the broader structural findings. Pruitt was terminated. His law enforcement certification was revoked by the Illinois Law Enforcement Training Standards Board. He cannot work in law enforcement in the state of Illinois. The career is over. The city of Chicago settled with Marcus Deveaux for $4.3 million. Marcus donated $1 million to the MacArthur Justice Center, which provides free legal representation to people who cannot afford attorneys in civil rights cases. He donated another $500,000 to a scholarship fund at Southern University, his alma mater, specifically designated for students pursuing careers in law and public service. The remaining settlement funded a pilot program, mandated as part of the settlement terms, requiring implicit bias audits for all officers with 5 or more complaints within a 3-year period, with automatic supervisory review triggered at that threshold. The Chicago PD also agreed, as part of the settlement, to conduct an independent audit of all complaint files from the preceding 10 years, flagged by demographic pattern. That audit was still ongoing at the time this script was written. Marcus's left shoulder required physical therapy for 6 weeks. The impact against the glass wall had aggravated an old rotator cuff injury from a training exercise years earlier. He went to PT twice a week before work. He never mentioned it publicly. His daughter Zoe saw the footage at school before Marcus had a chance to talk to her about it. She called him from the hallway between classes, voice small in a way it hadn't been since she was 6 years old. "Dad, are you okay?" He told her he was fine. She said, "I watched it 3 times and you never even raised your voice." He said, "That's because I didn't need to." She was quiet for a moment and then she said, "That's the scariest part." Diane now wears the bracelet Marcus was trying to buy that day. He went back to Harrington and Cole 3 months later on a Saturday with both daughters. Priya, the sales associate who'd been working the counter that day, was still there. She recognized him immediately. She didn't say anything about what had happened. She just pulled the same bracelet from the same case and set it on the velvet tray in front of him. He bought it. He clasped it on Diane's wrist that evening at dinner. He has not talked about forgiveness. He has not been asked to perform it, and he has not offered it. What he has said, in the one interview he gave, a single sit-down with a journalist from The Atlantic, is this: "The credentials gave me a mechanism for response. Most people don't have that mechanism. That's what keeps me working." This was not the first time Marcus Deveaux had been stopped. He has said so plainly in that same interview. He was stopped while jogging near his home in Silver Spring, Maryland in 2019. A neighbor had called to report a suspicious man running. He was pulled over on I-295 in 2017, told his rear brake light was out, issued no ticket, given no explanation for why the stop lasted 40 minutes. He was asked to leave a hotel lobby in Atlanta in 2015 by a security guard who later apologized without explaining what had prompted the request. In each of those cases, Marcus did what he had always done. He remained calm. He invoked his rights. He went home. He went back to work. What made Chicago different was not the credentials. It was the cameras. What made Chicago different was that the moment was witnessed, recorded, preserved, and impossible to dismiss. The question the Deveaux case forces onto the table, the one that does not have a comfortable answer, is not about one officer and one bad stop. It is about the 19 complaints that went nowhere, about the 4 hours of online training that changed nothing, about the system that allowed Dale Pruitt to walk back into that store district on a Tuesday afternoon and do exactly what he had always done, because no one had ever made the cost high enough to stop him. Body cameras help. Civilian oversight boards help. Pattern audits help. But none of those things prevented what happened to Marcus Deveaux at 1:17 p.m. on a Tuesday in October. They only made it possible to document it afterward. The question is whether documentation alone is ever going to be enough, whether we are going to keep building better systems for recording injustice, or whether we are eventually going to build better systems for preventing it. That question doesn't belong to Marcus Deveaux. He already answered his part of it, in a plastic chair in a police holding room, with his hands cuffed behind his back and his voice completely level. It belongs to everyone else. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you. These stories don't tell themselves. They exist because people were there, because cameras were rolling, and because voices like yours share them until they can't be ignored. Drop a comment with your thoughts on what needs to change. If you believe that accountability isn't optional, hit subscribe. New stories go up every week. We'll see you in the next one.